What a great day this is. And please let's welcome our very, very special guest today, Reverend Dr. Mignonne Pollard.
Good morning, CSA. How are you? Good to see you. You know, it's not very often that I get to address my home center. And when I do, I take it very seriously. I go into thought, I go into meditation, and I think, you know, what is it that Spirit would like me to share? Well, it's the turning of the seasons. It's the autumn equinox. We're entering the last quarter of 2024. It's a time of release. It's a time of letting go. Revelation. Yes. And what seems to come to my awareness a lot these days has been this idea of mourning, grief, and healing. So this morning, I feel like my mother's spirit said, you're going to talk about mourning, grief, and healing, but you're not giving me enough attention. So at 5 o'clock this morning, before my alarm went off, my mother's best friend, who's also named Carol, and I call her my mother's best friend of doom and gloom, my mother's best friend sent a text, and it said, "How's the family in Birmingham?" I looked at the text, and I went, curse word, curse word, curse word! Curse word! And then I sent the obligatory text to my sister. How are you? Is everybody okay? Now you might think, what's going on? I knew if my mother's friend Carol sent me a text about how's the family in Birmingham, that curse word went down in Birmingham. And it did, people. We have this beautiful sunny place, but there was a mass shooting in Birmingham last night. 4 people died, 21 are injured. That was just the latest report. My sister and her family, my niece is off to college. My nephew is too young to be roaming the streets. And my sister and her husband were at home. So everyone was fine. So I just want to take this day of international peace, right? This day of extravaganza to just like a moment of silence for all of those families that are involved in this tragedy in Birmingham. Thank you. So, when I was contemplating this, the thing that gave me solace, the thing that gave me peace, I think, is knowing that God is everywhere present, always, and that God's love surrounds us and protects us. And that was the message that kept coming through over and over again as I was thinking about this idea of grief, of loss, of mourning. Now, what I know for sure is that divine love is protecting us. And whether you're in the highest of high or whether you're in your lowest valley, that wherever you are, divine love is there. It's in the good times, it's in the bad times. So in January of this year, right after my birthday, I got the call that nobody wants to get. I got the phone call that a dear friend of mine that I've known for over 30 years was diagnosed with an aggressive and deadly cancer. And that cancer is not easily curable. It's got many bad statistics for survival. So my immediate reaction was sadness, even though I was reminded by another friend to not be held hostage by a diagnosis, whether it's your diagnosis or whether it's someone else's diagnosis, that we don't need to be held hostage by a diagnosis. I'm a science of mind minister. It's one thing to know it in your mind. It's another thing to know it in your heart. And so I began this journey of what they call anticipatory grief. And just for my partner, I've got to do it because she said, you didn't do it. I've got to do it. 535,600 minutes. 535,000 moments so dear. 535,600 minutes. How do we measure a year? She got me for not having a Broadway play in there. Anyway, that's Brent. That's a song about life and how do we measure it? In seasons of love. In seasons of love. So that's what I did. It was like there was this line drawn in the sand. And the 30 years and all my life before was here. The diagnosis was the line, and everything else was over here. All of a sudden, there was a time-space discontinuum. And grief can do that to you. You know, grief can make you feel a little discombobulated, like there's a before and then there's an after. You know, something happens, a mass shooting, the loss of a child, the loss of your job, your partner dies unexpectedly, a person leaves your life due to incarceration, something we don't talk about a lot, the situation changes, or maybe you just simply realize that you are not the person you used to be, that you can't go back to that version of yourself who you used to be. All of these are forms of loss. And honoring those shifts and honoring those changes, that's what grief helps us move through. Now, in Science of Mind, we focus on causes and conditions, right? We focus on actions and consequences. But when a person is in the throes of grief, especially when that grief is new, I don't need us to engage in a spiritual bypass. We don't have to act like everything is all right or like we'll get over it soon. That's a spiritual bypass. No, we need to acknowledge that it is there. Now, David Kessler and Louise Hay wrote this book, You Can Heal Your Heart, Finding Peace After a Breakup, a Divorce, or Death. And what they remind us of in this book is that spirit doesn't know loss. It only knows that every story has a beginning and every story has an end. But love is eternal. So grief is something that we walk through. No choice but to walk through it. Ultimately, it's an individual journey. It's a unique journey. And we can support one another up until a point in that journey. Now, the thing is, I think when we do the spiritual bypass, everybody wants it to be okay, everything is okay, but I'm going to tell you it's a little bit like Megan Devine's book, It's Okay That You're Not Okay. Meeting grief and loss in a culture that doesn't understand it. And this journey of grief, because that's what it is, it's a journey through grief. Remember, we're not trying to get over anything, we're trying to get through something. So say it with me. It is, we are not trying to get over it, we will walk through it. We're not trying to get over it, we will walk through it. We're not trying to get over it, we will walk through it. Okay. Mark Nepo described what this was like in the opening of It's Okay to Not Be Okay. And what he said it's like Dante's Divine Comedy. Virgil, a character, is Dante's guide through hell and into purgatory, right up until Dante faces a wall of flames. He balks at it, he's afraid, but Virgil tells him, you have no choice. It's a fire that will burn but not consume you. You have to go through that wall of flames. Dante's still afraid. Virgil senses that. Virgil puts his hand on Dante's shoulder and responds, you have no choice. So Dante summons the courage and he walks through the wall of flames. Everyone who lives in this life comes upon a wall of fire. Everyone who's lived and loved will walk on the road of grief, and everyone's path will be different. We can support each other. We can walk through the fire, to the limit, to the wall in our grief journey. We can hold each other's hands because it does hurt. And it's important to just be there in a non-judgmental way. Do not judge how a person expresses their grief, how long or how short that person may stay in a place of mourning, because this is what I know for sure. The spiritual principle is God is ever present, always. And as surely as you signed up to live, each and every one of us will come to this crossroads in life where we face some form of grief. And my proposal to you is to consider that grief is an expression of love. Love for the person, love for the situation, love for yourself. And if you keep your eyes open, you will see divine love showing up. Now, what I know is that when I got this news that my friend is many, 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 many miles away, many, many miles away, I knew that I couldn't be there immediately, and I probably won't be there later. But I know God's love is there, and God's love surrounds them. If there's ever been a time that you think that somebody's passed, or you're not, know that God's love is going to show up. It's going to show up as their child. It's going to show up as a nurse. It's going to show up as the delivery person. God's love cannot be suppressed. Okay? Just like you have access to it, everyone has access to it. So just know that. And also, I just have to keep saying it, grief is not something we get over. It's something we move through. So, there's no right way to grieve. This is very important. There's no right way to grieve. It's as individual as a fingerprint. But, just to make sure you're with me, I just want to check. How many of you grieve like a strong black woman? I'm just checking. Yeah, I know you do, Steve. It's that one foot in front of the other, got to do that. I'll deal with it later, girl. I got to do this. I got to cook. I got to clean. I got to do this. I got to do that. I mean, any strong woman, they don't have to be black, but you just keep moving. And don't judge a person. That might be the way they grieve. What I found in my grief journey, is that grief will sneak up on me. It sneaks up on me like waves. After my mother grieved, I did the service, I did whatever. Only people who knew me well knew that it was that moment when I threw that dirt on top of the casket and I had to do all that service. I thought, what the hell was I thinking? And I did curse. And and it went on there, and I just took off. I could not stay at the gravesite as they lowered the grave down. Different people grieve in different ways. Different people grieve in different ways. And it might come upon you on a smell. It might come upon you as you're eating a favorite food. It could come upon you in any number of ways, and it could come upon you months, weeks, years later. Do not judge. Just move through it. Now, what we can do as a community is we can hold one another in this grief journey. We can walk with one another to a certain point. And the most powerful spiritual practice that we can do is what I call compassionate listening. Compassionate listening. We can listen to the people's story. We can listen to the journey. So here, I have a Facebook friend who recently lost her 10-year-old son. She and her partner adopted 2 children, and I've been watching them grow up, and I've been just enamored with this family. It was the first day of school for 5th grade for this young person, and soon after that, they developed bacterial meningitis. And now, I'm not her only Facebook friend. There's like 800 of us. And we prayed. I am sure at least 750 of us prayed. We prayed. We watched. We waited. We hoped. We knew. And this young boy died. What I gather from that is that it was his time to move. It was his time to complete his earth journey. That the lessons he needed to be learned were learned, what he needed to teach, he taught. He moved on. And now, as a community, even as an electronic community, what we're doing is we're holding this family, because what this person is doing is honoring that life, and they're posting pictures. The last picture that they posted was a time that they went kayaking, and he was sitting at the front of the kayak sort of directing the whole family, and they were so proud of it because he was so afraid to get in the kayak, but he did, and he did that. And so we honor, I'm going to call his name just in the African tradition, Sir Ryan. That's what they call him, Sir Ryan. They were honoring Sir Ryan as we go through this grief journey. Now, this family is forever changed. And just like it's not to get over it, it's not to forget. You don't forget that person. They will always be a family of 4, even though there are 3 there. Ryan has made an indelible mark on this life, on this earth. But, so, they honored him and let him go. Now, in this book, It's Okay to Not Be Okay, it gives lots of information. If you are going through this grief journey yourself, it can help you. If you are walking beside someone, it can help you. But I'm going to give you a couple of points from how to walk beside someone who is going through this journey, through this place of early grief. There are many places within grief. And I want to clear up one thing, too. When I was young and in college, I studied Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And David Kessler worked with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. He's very famous. And she is the most famous person. She wrote a book on death and dying. But the stages that she talks about, those stages that she talks about, are the stages that the person who is dying is going through. Not this person, not the people walking beside them. So you may go through similar stages, but you may not. But what you can do as you look at those stages or as you support this person is the number one thing I want you to know is that grief belongs to the griever. Don't try to tell your story. Don't try to compare your pain to somebody else's pain. My mother died. Yes, she died. And you may have your own story, but guess what? You also have your own relationship with your mother, which may be different from my relationship with my mother. So you may understand in a way what my pain is, but you can't understand it completely. So when you're standing beside somebody who's going through this, the most important thing you can do is to be a compassionate listener to their story. And don't you bring your story. It's just really focus on the person. It's being present. The most spiritually healing thing you can do is be present, fully present for another person. And another thing that you can do is state the truth. Don't glamorize the past. Don't glorize the future. Don't say those platitudes like, oh, they're in a better place now. You know, don't say that. The person who is in pain doesn't want to hear about a better place because they're not in that better place. Just listen to them. Be compassionate with them. And finally, don't try to fix the unfixable. The loss has happened. It's not, don't take them to a seance. You're not bringing them back. Don't try to fix the unfixable. Just bear witness. So I think the spiritual practice that I'm begging you all to do is to bear witness, to be compassionate listeners, to walk beside and be fully present with the other person. Acknowledge the pain and don't brush it off. So finally, one of the things that your connection to this person will remain, because what we know is that energy shifts and energy changes. And our connections remain, but they shift and they change. So if you've lost someone, if you've lost a part of yourself, if you've lost a pet, and after you have grieved for whatever time period you need, and nobody's doing a judgment on that, after you do that, a spiritual practice that is offered, that we do use in Science of Mind, is meditation. And I'm going to ask you to indulge me and to participate in a very abbreviated meditation around this idea of, and really I'm focused on the loved one or the situation, but mainly the loved one that you have lost. So if you will indulge me, and I'm going to thank David Kessler and Louise Hay ahead of time. You can listen, you can participate. Find a quiet place to sit with no distractions. Close your eyes and focus on your breathing. Slow down with each inhale and exhale. Now picture your loved one's face in your mind's eye and see them at a happy time in their life. Allow their essence to fill your inner space. See their eyes sparkle, see the glow of their face, and feel the connection between the two of you that continues. And now, in this safe and sacred space, tell your loved one anything you need to say. If you feel it in your heart, they will feel it in theirs. Understand that this connection remains unbroken, even though they are no longer in their body. Now, listen in the quietness for anything that they may want to say to you. After you've heard what they have to say, thank them for the connection that remains and breathe it in your heart. Release all the strings that attach you except that one delicate string that flows from heart to heart. And when you're ready, bring your awareness back to your breath. Open your eyes. Ground yourself in your body. And when you decide to stand up and walk away, remember that your loved one walks with you. Again, the ultimate truth is that love never dies. And just a caveat, if anything negative came up for you doing this exercise, treat it as a gift of knowledge. Do you need to forgive a loved one? Or does he or she or they need to forgive you? Did you get in touch with some blame or guilt you're holding on to? If so, remember that embracing your grief can help you heal. So it's an idea of about a loss. It's a person, a situation, a partnership, even a friendship I think in honoring the love and grief as an act of love, you can do a ritual to release old versions of yourself that no longer serve you. And there are also physical, tangible things that you can do to show your love. You know, something we don't talk about a lot. I lost a dear friendship once. It's a bridge, even though that person's still in physical form, it's a bridge that cannot be crossed again on my side. But I learned some things about myself and the world. And I devoted some of my time to honoring the lessons I learned by teaching classes to those who wanted to foster parents and how to accept LGBTQI youth. I did special workshops on supporting trans youth, and I worked with parents of trans youth, and I incorporated all of that knowledge into classes and into experiences, and I broadened my world. I have a plethora of friendship with parents of trans youth. You know, I honored my friendship by taking the best of what I learned and then passing it on. You can do that to honor a person's life. I did that to honor the loss of a friendship. But when a person dies, I also see that there's many ways that you can honor them. I see people with park benches. I see chairs in the sanctuary with people's names on them. I see gardens. People plant trees. Many ways that you can take that love, that grief turned into love, into a physical manifestation of something that helps support the world. And then somebody asked me once, do I have to help support the world? Can't I just be sad? I was like, yeah, you can just be sad. You don't have to plant a tree or flower or rock. You know what I do know? I know that you'll know what's yours to do. You'll know what's yours to do to honor that person and to honor that love. And so my ask of you is that we take this energy of grief into love, and as we do that, as a community, we support one another as we go through these transitions. Oh, and by the way, if indeed you need someone to help you on this grief journey, then we do have practitioners who can hold your hand, who can pray for you, who can move you through. And if you need to go a little bit deeper, there are therapists who can help you uncover things. So the most important thing, I think, is that I need you to know that your grief is your grief. Don't compare it to others. That loss is difficult, whether it's you lose your husband or your wife, your child, your sister, your brother, your mother, your pet, or a part of yourself. Whatever it is, that is loss. Honoring that loss is an expression of love. And knowing that if you can't be there, that God's love will not be suppressed, that God's love is everywhere, that even as you're going through your grief, that God's love is supporting you, holding you, shielding you. And God's love is available to whomever that person or situation is. God's love is everywhere present, always and always available. Let's take this message into prayer. So just knowing that there is one energy that is back behind all, that energy of love, that energy of joy, that energy of continuous evolution, a soul into higher and higher and different spheres of expression. Oh, and just knowing that I'm an expression of that love, that I am God's hands and feet, and that each and every person here is God's hands and feet. Oh, and just knowing that as we walk through this life and we hit that wall of fire, I am just so grateful for God's love, so grateful for the support of the community, so grateful for each and every person, so grateful for people that are compassionate healers, so grateful for the non-judgmental way in which we can walk through grief together. I'm thankful and grateful for God's love, compassion, for this community's love and compassion. And I release this word into the law, and together we say, so it is.